shoot models, meaning I shoot fashion, we shoot celebrities. And most of all, I'm specialized in teaching. That's the one thing I really like to do. I like to inspire people and make their photography a little bit different. Now, when shooting with a camera, and especially when you do workshops, it's very important that people can see what you're doing. You don't want to shoot and then go like, do you like the picture? Imagine having a group of, let's say, 1,200 people in a room, or a group of 5 people. Even with 5 people, it's very frustrating to just go there and go like, can you look at the back of my screen here? You see this? Okay, show the next picture. Yeah, of course. And it's very frustrating to do that. Now, how did I find Tether Tools? Because Tether Tools is a company that has a lot of different stuff for tethering. And I wasn't looking for all that stuff. The stuff I was looking for was very simple, called, and I kid you not, I didn't invent this name, a jerk stopper. So to give you an idea, my wife was walking around Photokina with all these stickers, jerk stopper, and she said to me, why are all the guys laughing at me? And I said, yeah, I don't know. Anyway, so the jerk stopper, what does the jerk stopper do? Now, if I grab my camera, I will show you very quickly, because this is one that will save your life, or, well, it will not save your life, but it will save you a lot of money. Now, what you can see here, actually, this is my camera that we're shooting with today, and this is a FireWire port on the back, and a USB 3 port here. Now, what you see is the connector goes into the USB 3 port, but after that, the cable will just hang out on the floor, right? Now, with the USB 3 port, they're very, very sturdy, but if you go to like the Sonys or the Canons, the ports are actually very fragile, meaning if you do something like this, it will be okay, but if you do it a little bit wilder, it will probably break off, and that means 600 euros of damage and 6-7 weeks your camera gone. This is actually very simple. If you pull this, nothing will happen. It will actually stay on. So that's why they call it the jerk stopper. And of course, we're Dutch, and especially for me, they made orange cables. Well, I always tell myself that when I have trouble sleeping. So the orange cables are actually really, really cool. Now, why did they make them orange? Because on a stage or in a dark studio, you can't see the black cable, so everybody stands on them. And with orange cables, it's actually very, very easy to spot, because you can see the cables on the floor. So, and one more thing, and this is really nice. This is a medium format camera, USB 3. Now, normally they won't go further than, let's say, 4 meters. With Tether Tools, you can get extension cables. Now, one thing that's very important, if you're shooting medium format, and otherwise just forget it, I won't spend a lot of time on it. In your camera, you can put something charging. It's an option, charging. And it will charge from USB 3. You can put it on fast, slow, or off. If you want to use extension cords and make sure that your camera still works up until 15 meters, we tested it with 3 extension cables and it still works. But make sure you put charging on off. Not on slow, not on fast, off. Otherwise it won't work. You will take 3 shots and the camera will die. Or it will not die, but it will lose connection to capture 1. Okay. And the other jerk stopper I actually use is called the inline jerk stopper. And it's now on the floor, so I'll show you that later. But that will actually connect the extension cable together with the USB cable. Now, this is my MacBook. This is a 13-inch, and we will soon be upgrading again to the 15-inch. We tried the 13-inch, but it's a little bit too slow for what I like to do. Now, it's placed on a tether table, and one of the things I like about the tether table is they're very, very lightweight. In other words, if you fly, you can take this one with you. And I had some other tables in the past, and they were very heavy, meaning, well, I'm always heavy on gear that we bring, so we don't want to bring a heavy table. On this side, what you can actually see is a little bracket, and in this bracket there's a hard drive. Now, why should I be shooting tethered on location with a hard drive, right? Because there's a hard drive in here. The problem with hard drives is there's one thing that's very, very certain with any hard drive. They will fail. And the only problem is you never know why, or sorry, you never know when. It can be today, it can be tomorrow, it can be in 10 years. But there's one thing for certain, they will fail. The other thing that's for certain, it will always happen at a point that you don't want it. It's never like, okay, now you can fail, and it fails. So what I'm using is something called a Tough Tech, and my buddy Glenn Dewis actually got me up to this one. And this one is really, really nice. It has 2 drives, and it's configured in my setting in a RAID 0, meaning, in a mirroring. Meaning one drive will store all the original files, and the other drive will store a copy. if on location something goes wrong, one of the drives will still work and has all my files on it. And it's connected via FireWire to the MacBook with a little connector, and it works. I hope they will bring out the Thunderbolt release very soon. So with the Tether Tools, you just slide it in here, and on location, you don't see it anymore, and you're safe. The other thing they release, what I use, is the hook. And I hang my light meter from it. Don't run away, guys. It's just a light meter. It doesn't hurt you or whatever. Some people think that a light meter will steal their creativity at night. It's just a freaking tool. So, and the other thing that we use is something called, one moment, Lauren. That's nice. It's called the cup holder. Now, at first now, sorry guys, I love America, I love you guys, but the first reaction I got when I saw the cup holder was, that must be an American product. Because who wants a cup holder in their tether table? And Anouk said, you're just going to try it, you're going to like it. And I was like, okay. And I kid you not, a week later we did a shoot on a beach. And what's one of the things that's very much available on the beach? It's sand. And I had my little bottle of water, and I had it in the cup holder, and it was fresh all the time, because every time you look at the computer, you go like, okay, I really like this shot, man. Yeah. Yeah, let's change a little bit. Okay, yeah, we change the light a little bit to that. Okay, and then we go. And you take your drink. Now, normally I would lay my bottle in the sand, right? And it would look a little bit like this. Okay, so really like this. Sorry, really like this shot. And you had all this sand in your mouth, so this is very cool. And as you know, I always have a little bit of humor in between. And then we go a little bit lower, and we have something called the Moore strap. The strap Moore, sorry. Anouk is helping me out here. This one actually now holds the power connector for my laptop. And I have to be honest, I also use it on my mountain bike. When I do a lot of biking in the summer, I don't do it now, I want to be at home as fast as possible, but in the summer you can bike for like 3 or 4 hours. We have a beautiful surrounding here, a lot of mountain bike trails. And what I do is I will actually connect a little extra battery for my iPhone. So I will connect the battery of my iPhone on the frame with the Strapmore, and then go for a long, long time. Okay, and then we have this one. And Anouk knows all the names. It's the utility table, of course, I knew. And it actually, at the moment, holds my HyperJuice. Now, what is a HyperJuice? A HyperJuice is another nice gadget. It's very cool. It's a battery that will actually power your MacBook. Now, normally a MacBook, and a lot of people say, why do you need an extra battery for your MacBook? Because your MacBook will run for like 11, 12 hours. Yeah, it will run for about 8. And that's a long, long time. During a shoot, no problem at all. You will start in the morning, and in the evening you're done. Even with your brightness on full power. Until you start up Photoshop. Or you start up doing Capture One and you start doing some raw developing. Then your battery will go like, hey dude, now I really am hungry. And will go down, engage very, very fast. This one will actually make sure that even if you do Photoshop, it will run about 5 or 6 hours. And when this one is empty, it will switch over to the laptop. So this is the HyperJuice, and they're relatively cheap. And the other thing I always have with me is the color checker passport, of course. And some people will say, why are you, and I now see Anouk replaced my old ones with new ones. Why do you have the Apple logos on it? This is another tip. Normally in the studio it's very dark, right? And I don't know how many color checkers I lost over the years, but it's a lot because it's dark. And by putting an Apple logo on each side or something else, if you like Microsoft, put a Microsoft logo on it, or Android or whatever, as long as it's bright. And it could be even better if it emits lights a little bit. So now I can see in the dark, I can see my color checker. Now what do you do with the color checker? The first shot you do is you actually include this one in the shot, and you have a perfect start. Okay, so tethered shooting for me is something that really helps me to convince my clients that we're a professional studio. It's very unprofessional to just go to your client and say, here, look at the back of my camera, and the client goes, can you mark that one? And you go like, yeah, I will remember. or you can maybe mark it in the software, but it's very, very convenient to just have it on Capture One, show it very fast, and just show people like, okay, this is what's going on, this is how it works. And furthermore, Anneli, can you please show me the iPad holder, which we also use. This is also one of my favorites during shoots. We use Capture One as mentioned before, and Capture One has a little option called Capture Pilot. Now what Capture Pilot actually does is it runs a server, and the server can be accessed from everywhere in the world. So if you're on the other side of the world, you can log into the server and you can see the images coming in, and you can mark the images, look at the other images, zoom in, whatever you want to do. But it also sends the images straight to your iPad or iPhone or Android device or any device that can access it via web server. But how do you hold the iPad? Well, I sometimes have clients, for example, in studio waiting area while we're doing the shoot because they don't want to be with the shoot. I will just give them this little stand and say, okay, there you go. You can see all the images we're doing in the studio. If you see something you like, you just flag it. You can browse through the images. You can zoom in. And while I'm shooting, the images will keep coming in, and you can just do whatever you want on the iPad. And this one is really cool because it just holds the iPad very, very solid. And yeah. We also use that one. Okay, Anneli, can you remove this? And we're going to do a little bit of a live shoot with our model Ian to show you what we can do with a little bit of lighting. Because we don't want to do only the commercial stuff. Of course, we want to show you some lighting and some retouching tips. So let me see if we have a male model in here. Ian, how nice of you to come by.
Thank you. I'm honored.
You're honored. Okay. Hi.
Hi.
I'm Frank.
I'm Ian.
He's Ian, and I'm Frank. So, okay, now one of the first things that I like to do with models is actually get them a little bit at ease, getting a little bit relaxed. So are you relaxed?
I'm getting relaxed, yeah.
So we're done. Right. So let's see. And I don't want to do it very difficult because we only have now like 15 minutes left to do the photo shoot, and then I'm going to show you something about retouching and workflow, and then we have 15 minutes of Q&A. So I have to go fast. Do you like to go fast? Let's get it over with. Okay. Ian, can you stand against the back, please? Now, one of the things you have to remember with light is our language, right, as photographers. If you don't understand your own language, how can you ever make a hit song or how can you ever make a poem? And light just said. Now, one of the things that's very cool about light is that it has direction. Now, one of the things that I always use is gridded light sources. As you can see here, I'm using a 70 centimeter octa. And we use a honeycomb grid. And honeycomb grids, you can find them online on honeycomb.com. They're very, very cool grids, and they make them custom for almost every light source available. Now, why do I use grids? Because it's really narrowing the light. It steers the light straight on the subject, straight on the model. And it doesn't go everywhere. Now, a lot of the photography you see out of today is a lot of flat lighting, meaning they will just put a big light source somewhere, put a model in front of it, make a shot, and boom, you're done. I like to do it a little bit more dangerous, a little bit more nice. So I want to create some three-dimensionality. Now the first thing you of course can do is aim it straight at your model, like this, meter the light and make a shot. And I will show you how it looks. So we aim towards the light source in this case, and we get a meter reading, and I will show you that very quickly. We get a meter reading on the meter of 16.2 on 125th of a second, ISO 100. Now, a lot of the people, they email me about, Frank, I have a light meter, and I don't know how the thing works. It's like a voodoo device. It isn't. It's a very, very simple device. If it says f16, you just put your camera on f16 and you take the shot. But it's now an f16.2. f16.2 means it meters f16 and 2/10 of an f-stop. Your camera works on 1/3 of an f-stop, meaning if you are f16.3, you put your camera on f16 and you do one click on your dial and you go up. If it's on f16.6, you go up 2 clicks. If it's on f16.9, you go to f22. In this case, it's f16.2. Now, if I'm shooting outside, I can't go down 2/10 of a stop. So I will look. If my model is wearing mostly black, I will shoot on f16. If my model is wearing a lot of white, I will actually go one click higher on the camera. So I will shoot, in essence, on 16.3. But in this case, I'm in the studio. I can just lower my strobe 1, 2, 2 clicks down, and now I'm on F16. So I'm going to grab my camera, I'm going to show you the first very simple light. And you will, if I'm correct, see the image coming. So there we go. By the way, I'm shooting at the moment with a Mamiya DF Plus and a Leaf Credo 60, without any doubt one of my favorite cameras. Okay, Ian, can you look a little bit towards the light? Very nice. And of course you have to turn on everything. There we go. So now you see the image coming in, and you see that it's already a very focused light source. And it's the simplest light setup. The only thing is, in his eye, it's a little bit too dark. So Ian, can you look up a little bit more? Send it to your eyes, please, for me. Nice. Look straight ahead. There we go. So this is something I like a little bit more. Now you can see a little bit more light in his eyes. There we go. And this is the most simple light setup, right? It's almost straight at the model. So let's start playing a little bit with this light. Let's start moving it around. So it's going to grab this light source, and I'm going to move it here. Now, one of the things that I love to do is feather light. Now, what does feathering light means? Feathering light means actually you make it a little bit softer. Now, every light source has a center and sides. The center is the hot spot. That's very, very bright. It's very, very strong. The more you go to the outside, the softer the light, but also the less intensity. This is very cool because it means that if you normally put your model in the hot spot, the wall will also be lit, right? Because the light from the sides will actually feather on the wall. It can be beautiful, but now let's say that you want the wall a little bit more dark and you only want your model to stand out and you don't have this big studio. Because that's the main problem. Big studios, no problem at all to get the background darker. Smaller studio, a lot of people have problems. So by feathering the light, you can actually also work in a small studio. Now watch this. You can see the background lighting up. And now you can see that only Ian is actually lighting up. There we go. Let's grab a light meter. And now a lot of people say, Frank, you have to meter every time. Isn't that very, very terrible? No, it isn't. Because if I meter every time, I'm done. Very, very fast. Now if you look at the meter, you will see, oh, there we go, 11.9. This means it's only 1/10 of an f-stop removed from f16. So I take my light meter, press 1 up, and my light meter will be on f16. I don't even have to remeasure that. Remeter that, sorry guys. There we go. Try the same thing, look that way. Nice. There we go. Just a very slight change of your angle of light, make it a totally different look. Now we're getting into a look that I really like. It's really dark, it's really moody, and you can really see the model. Now let's say that you say, you know, I want it a little bit more bright, but I don't want to change the light. Move around, just change your own position. Hey, you do the same thing. Very cool. Now I have a little bit more light in his face. Getting it a little bit more flat. Of course, you have to tell your model, look that way, and now with your eyes up. Center your eyes towards me. Chin up just a little bit. Awesome. Look here. These are little tricks, just let him look at your hand. And that way you can steer his eyes towards the light. And you see the difference? Just a little bit more cat's eyes in his eyes. Okay. And now another thing, if I move to the other side, you can have a little bit more fun. Can you look that way, please? Nice. Because now what you see is actually some kind of rim lighting, a little bit more accent light. And now very quickly, a little bit more light on the background. You just change the angle a little bit. And you have a little bit more light on the background. So it's just playing with your light. And as soon as you start playing with your light, you can start telling stories with light. And you can really, really enhance your photo shoot. So we're going to do one more thing. And this one is also very cool. Ian, can you please take off all your clothes? No, I'm just kidding with you. Only your top. Sorry, your, oh, sorry guys, your blazer. Yes. Oh, what a mistake. Really cool. Now, this is something called styling. So you saw the photo shoot a moment ago, and you saw that we had a really nice, really rough, almost Viking-looking guy, right? And he had a blazer on. And a lot of people stop there. They go like, oh, you know what? Awesome. And you look at the pictures and you go like, yeah, great lighting, great model, great location, great color, everything is great. And then you go like, but. And that's the worst thing that can happen. If somebody looks at your image and they go like, but, there's something missing. And a lot of people don't even know what's missing. They just look at it and they go like, I don't know, I don't have a clue what's missing, but something's not there. And that's something called styling. Styling is very, very important. If I have to choose between a really good stylist or a makeup artist, it's a very, very difficult choice. But I can do some makeup in Photoshop, but I can't do any styling in Photoshop. So if I have to spend my money, I would first go to a good stylist. Now a lot of makeup artists hate me when I say this. Okay, there we go. Meter the light, 16.2. So we go down 1, 2, and I'm in F16. You see the light meter, all the people that go like, yeah, but you have to re-meter the light every time. Yeah, but it's only once. And the first shot you take is spot on. That will make you look really good for your client. Okay, can you look up again? Now look at the difference between the one with the blazer and the one with the bretelles. Or the, I don't know how they're called in America. This is a totally different look, right? And now there's something else. And yeah, that's also very difficult. And he will stay there. You have to talk to your models. I know, some people will just go like, okay, yeah, just do something. Yeah. This is not very comforting for your model, trust me, especially when you go like this. Oh, no. It's terrifying because the model actually is trying to do its or her best, and you just don't communicate. So what I do is I talk a lot. And you know why I talk a lot? Because if they talk big, it looks funny on the picture, so I will just keep talking. So don't laugh. Are you laughing at me? A little bit. Okay. I will. Can you look into the light, please, Ian? Very nice. Awesome. Chin up just a little bit. Very, very cool. Center your eyes just a little bit. That's awesome. Okay, can you do something with, we just call them bretelles over here. Nice. Okay, do it with both. Awesome. Make it real nice. Look towards the light a little bit again. Nice. Can you lean against the wall? And cross your legs a little bit. There we go. Very tough. Nice. Also the other hand in the picture, please. There we go. Awesome. Okay, do something with both again. There we go. This is nice. And even if I don't like the images, I will still say nice, nice. And you didn't hear that one. Now, I will change over to here. And you do the same thing, but very, very relaxed and look towards a very, how do you call it? Think about the 70s, rock and roll. So lean over, and you're that guy from The Wanderers. There we go. Or James Dean or whatever. And also show the other hand, please. There we go. Nice. And give a little bit more contrast in the shot. There we go. Okay, so we got a lot of nice shoots. So let's show you a little bit about my workflow. We're gonna rebuild very fast. So Lauren has a poll for you guys, and I'm gonna switch over to the desktop. We'll be back at you in 30 seconds. Or we do some commercials. So Lauren?
Yes, I just sent out a poll. There's a poll.
Okay, Lauren fell asleep.
No, and the question is, do you currently shoot tethered? Yes, no, or would like to, so I'm here to learn more. Go ahead and answer the question if you can right now while Frank's adjusting here, and then we will share some of the answers. And if you have specific topics that you'd like to learn more about or challenges, we are getting some in the questions, which is great, but please feel free to add a few more. Go ahead and answer your poll. We'll take about 30 seconds to get that done.
Yep, I'm almost done. And of course, normally we say, thank you, Ian, you rock. But that's normally.
Frank, one of the questions that came in is some photographers use 160 or multiples of 160, 320, 640, etc. because 160 is closer to the 200 ISO native to most camera sensors. What do you recommend?
Yeah. You know, I'm not into that kind of stuff. I am a pixel peeper, and I love to be a pixel peeper, but at one point you just have to stop. And I think with medium format I can choose between ISO 50, 100, and 200. Oh, no, wait, I have to shoot a color checker. You have to choose somewhere. And can you hold the color checker in front, please? And in between I will answer the question. So if you're really into that, find out what the native ISO of your camera is. And if it's 120 or 160 and you feel comfortable with that, just shoot on that. But for me, I don't know. I will just shoot on ISO 100 and ISO 200 because that's what I'm used to. And I won't say it's wrong to do it. It's the same with exposed to the right. It's whatever makes you comfortable, whatever you want to do. And that's my wife, by the way. Hello, Anna-Week. Okay, any more questions? Otherwise, I will go into the workflow part.
Okay. Go ahead and get everyone's last votes in, and then we'll close out the poll.
Yeah. Okay, I will go on very quickly. Now, you saw me shooting the color checker, right? Now, normally what you could do to make the color look nice is do something like this. You know, and this is the same in Capture One and Lightroom. You go like, okay, let's, no, that's not white. No, that's not white. That's not white. That's not white. Oh my, that's not white. Maybe this. No. Oh my, what do I have to do? This is nice. Now, one thing, if you do it like this, no problem at all. But if you choose one color, copy it to all the images. Even if it's wrong, if all the images are wrong, you have a style. It's very simple as that. If all the images are off by, let's say, 200 degrees and they're a little bit too magenta, but they're all exactly the same, that's a look. Now, if you go on each image and you try to get the proper color balance for each image, you will end up with a mess because every image will look a little bit different. Now, the color checker we actually shoot for this. You just go here to the gray patch, you click, and you make, I was pretty close. You do edit, adjustments, copy adjustments, edit, select all, and you go edit, apply adjustments. And now all the images have the correct color. Now some people will say, can't you use a gray card for this, Frank? Yeah, you can. The problem is that if I really need accurate colors, real accurate colors, I have to use Lightroom. For the very simple reason, Capture One doesn't support color checker passports. In fact, they don't support any color checker at all, which I think they should. But that's something that I've been talking to them a lot. On the other hand, in their defense, if you go to Lightroom and you look at the standard rendering of the colors, Capture One is way better, and I mean way better. So it's somewhere in between for my fashion work where I'm like, I need to have the colors correct, but I don't have to be spot on. I will use the color checker and I will use it like this. I will still shoot the color checker because if I ever need correct colors, I can go into Lightroom and create the correct colors. But I will just go like this, copy it to all the other images, and then I will use that because I love the rendering of Capture One. It's so much better than Lightroom. In Lightroom, I still have all my catalog system because in Capture One, I don't like the catalog system. But my raw developing is all Capture One. Okay, now one of the things I didn't show you guys yet, what I'm very, very impressed about, is this. When you're shooting tethered, and we're shooting to a really big monitor in the studio, so I can see my images, but it's very hard to see your focus, right? Now in Lightroom, you always have to go to 100%. In Capture One, you have a little loop. And you can actually say, okay, loop size, I want large, because we always want large. We go to loop size, 100%, and now watch this. This is very fast. Boom. And you can see that it's sharp. Okay. Now, if that's not fast enough for you guys, and of course it isn't, then watch this, and this will blow your mind. You go to View, and you go into your focus mask. Now this is really cool. Everything that's green is in focus. Meaning in this shot, I actually focused on his hair. And when I go to the eyes, it's still acceptable, but you can see that the hairs are much sharper. So this image is not good. This image, I actually focused here. I'm not so happy that you see this now, because now you see that my focus during a webinar is actually a little bit sloppy. It's all acceptable, but as you can see, I'm a little bit sloppy when I'm teaching. Now we're getting there. So this is a very, very quick way to see if you hit your focus. And in this case, it's still, if you look at the eyes, they're very, very sharp. And it's not 100% perfect. It's a matter of calculating. It will calculate the contrast areas, but it's 99% okay. So when you're shooting with stuff like lens babies or tilt and shift lenses, this will save your bacon. This will make sure that even if you're on the other side of the studio, you can see the green hue on his eyes and you know you hit the focus. Okay, hide focus mask. So the first thing I always do is I will select my images. Now in Lightroom, I will always use the P for selects and the X for non-selects. In Capture One, I somehow always do the 5s. So I don't like the first series because I don't like the blazer. Now as soon as we start moving here, I start getting some really interesting stuff. And I only want to retouch one image for you guys. So I will choose wisely, I hope. I see my wife laughing here, me choosing wisely, but okay. I really like this one, so let's give it a 5. Let me see if I like this one. I think this is a little bit too dark in the eyes, but I still like it. Let me do conversions. Let me see which one I like more. I also like this one. Okay, now we go into my rating. So sort by rating. And all the images that I like are actually now here. Now because I shot with a light meter, I don't want to change anything like exposure or whatever. I want to go straight into Photoshop. Now a lot of people email me like, Frank, how do you go straight from Capture One into Photoshop? Well, there's a little dial here, and it actually makes you create recipes. And the recipes are really cool because with your recipes you can actually create what we call go straight into. So if I go Frank to Photoshop, this is a recipe I created. It's creating a TIFF, non-compression, Pro Photo RGB, and it opens Adobe Photoshop CC 2014. The only thing I now have to do is press Command D. And in Lightroom it's Command E, and with Command E it will go straight into Photoshop. In Capture One it's Command D. And of course you can reprogram that, but why? Okay. Now if we look at Ian, he's pretty cool, he's pretty nice, and his face doesn't have a lot of problems, but you can see that there are, Ian, you are aging a little bit, dude. There are some problems here. Now skin retouching is one of the most talked about subjects, and a lot of people create a whole mythical scene about it, that you have to retouch your faces and it has to take hours and hours. Yeah, sure. Don't ever believe that. It can take hours, but there's a much faster way. I'm going to show you that. The first thing I do is I create 2 duplicates. And the first one I'm going to call blurred. Now because we're running, because we're running something in the back, it's a little bit slow. But we call this blurred, and we call this one sharp. Now some people will already recognize what I'm doing. This is actually called frequency separation. So we go blur. I go into blur, and what I actually want is I want a blur that hides everything, but still keeps the structural face. So about, I think about here. Press OK. Now I have a blurred image, right? So now I go to the other one I call sharp. The fun part is if you go to sharp, what you can actually do is you go image, and you go to apply image, and go into this. You go from your blurred RGB, and I'm doing something wrong, sorry guys. Apply image, go from blurred, and you press OK. Go into hard light or vivid light. There you go. And it looks weird. And I know what's going on. Sorry, one moment. I'll just run the action very quickly because I'm running otherwise out of time. And that's the fun part if you create an action. When I'm running the black magic in the back, something goes wrong. So one moment. The technique is exactly the same, but I'm now bypassing something. Okay, there we go. So now I created a group called frequency separation. You have a low and a high frequency. Low frequency, this is the blurred part, which you saw before. And on the high part, you saw what I did just, but now it works because it's in a group straight away. The fun part now is I have this blurred on the back, and this is actually where I have to do some magic to make it a little bit more smooth. And even with a man. On the high frequency, however, there's all the detail, as you can see here. It's all the detail that I want to keep, because if I blur, I don't want to blur the face. What I want to blur is the unevenness of the face. Of course, you can now start doing Gaussian blur, you can do selections, but a very, very simple trick is this, called to filter, and you have to buy this filter. It's from ImageNomic, it's called portraiture. And there we go. And what you do, and I created a profile for it called smoothing. What you do is you max everything out on +20 and make very, very, very sure that you put your sharpness under enhancements on 0 and softness on full. And you just press OK. Now what you will actually see is that it will smoothen out all the unevenness in the skin, but it still keeps all the detail like pores. So man doesn't look like a Barbie doll. There we go. If you want to do it again, no problem, just run it again. And what it will do, it will smooth out the colors, because normally the skin can look a little bit blotchy, and in this case it will just smooth that out. Okay, very nice. Layer merge down. Oh, sorry, layer merge down. But I don't want it on everything, so what I will actually do is I will go here and I will create a layer mask. Layer mask, and I will do hide all. There we go. I take the brush with white paint, and I will only paint it in the areas where I want the effect in. There we go. Something tells me that my computer isn't doing what it's supposed to do. Okay, there we go. It's lagging a little bit, guys. Sorry for that. Okay. Now let's say that you look at this and you, I can take a little bit more. Then you just select the low frequency. I do the filter again. As you can see, it's a very, very quick fix because now I already created the mask. I can just do it to my heart's content the way I like it. There we go. The fun part now is that on your high frequency you have all this detail, and normally you have to be very careful where you sample, because if you sample something where it's a different color, it will also take away the color. In this case it will only copy structure, so now you can very simply just remove the areas on his face. There we go. And of course also here a little bit. So now using a healing brush, just to create a little bit of more smooth skin. And I don't want it too smooth because it's a dude, so don't make it too smooth. But as you can see, the before and after, it's a pretty big difference. And it's like a 10-second fix if you do it right away. Okay, there we go. So this is done. And some people say this is wrong, and I don't blame them because it is wrong, but it's the way I work. I will now flatten my image. Now what I will do is I smoothen them a little bit too much because I know my next step is to give it a little bit of pop. I create a new background layer, and I go into filter, and a filter that I absolutely love, Intensify Pro from Mac Fun. Now if you're running a Mac, you can find Mac Fun. If you're not running a Mac, go for Topaz Clarity. Topaz Clarity does about the same. It's a little bit less configurable as Intensify, but it does approximately the same. There we go, it now starts. And I hope I don't have the same problem now that I had with my frequency separation layer because of the black magic that's running, but we'll see. Now, you see all these presets over here. It's lagging a lot. Sorry, guys. You see all these presets, and these are actually settings I created. And when I see something called Poppy Drama, I say, let's click it. There we go. And it gives you some sort of hyper reality look. You can go into your adjustments. You can do whatever you want here with Pro Contrast, Midtone, Structure. I love Structure, especially in the highlights, to give a little bit more detail, for example, on the shirt. There we go. A little bit in the midtones. Nice. And you press Apply. And as you can see, you don't have to spend a lot of time in Photoshop. I love Photoshop, don't get me wrong. But if I spend too much time in Photoshop, I'm always like, you know, I did something wrong during the photo shoot. Because during the photo shoot, I think you have to nail the image. You have to get the image right. Don't have to do anything after that with lighting or shadows. The only thing you do after this is create the look. Now, in the old days, when you used something called film, I don't know if you guys remember that, but film, you choose the film before you started shooting, because every film type has its own personal look, like Velvia or Portra or whatever. And in Photoshop, you actually create this afterwards. And of course, there was no Intensify Pro in film. However, if you go really back in time, they already did some retouching. And they actually did some stuff like this in the darkroom by using different papers, different chemicals, different curves. And why not use that in Photoshop? What I don't do is I don't change light or whatever. Now, if I go really close in, 100%. Oh, my computer is lagging. There we go. Go into 100%. Now you know why I did a little bit more smoothing than you would normally do, because I know a lot of you guys were looking like, oh, he looks very, very smooth. There we go. Okay, the only thing now is I don't like this on his neck. It's a little bit too much. So I will start again. This is my way of working. I will flatten my image, create a duplicate layer. And what I will actually do is I will take it out completely. Just do it like this. Come on. There we go. And because this doesn't look natural, because nobody has a neck like this, you do this. You take the opacity of the top layer all the way down, and you just add it in until it looks the way you like it. There we go.
Frank, you had mentioned the difference, of course, between making all of these changes in a film setting versus in a digital format. We do have a couple of questions about a little bit more of the basics of shooting digital and tethered to create some of the...
Can I do one more thing, please?
Of course, of course.
Can I do one more thing? Because then I finish this one. If I'm back in Capture One and I go here into the browser, I will go to the film type in a moment. I actually stored all my files on my SSD drive in a file called Work on Capture One. And you can actually see what I've been working on today. And here is Ian. And this is, by the way, some images we worked on today. This is Ian, and now what I want to do is, now I want to create the look. And the look, I use different stuff. I absolutely adore DxO Film Pack and Alien Skin Exposure. Those are awesome. But if I'm doing a full, like this, Capture One workflow, what I like to do is just do the tinting also in Capture One. And I go into my styles and presets, and go into my own presets, called Frank. And here I have all the presets built in, where I can just go through, and I always call this the clickety-click until you see what you like stuff. And I will just find one that I find suiting for the image. I really don't want it too dark. So I want to lighten it up just a little bit, make it like a warm contrasty. I love this one. So, and now I have the tinting in Capture One. So now what I actually did is I created my film. Only I did the film after. So this is straight out of the camera. And this is the one in Capture One. And the nice thing about this one is if I don't like it afterwards, I can just change it because I'm still in a RAW converter. Although it's a TIFF now, I can still use this as a RAW converter. Okay. The nice thing about Capture One, what I like extra, and then I will go into the question, is you can click here and make a new variant. It doesn't take up any hard drive space, And I can now go like, okay, Ian, you like the color version. Let's see if you like a black and white version. Let's go for a real aggressive black and white, or black and white awesome. If there's something that's awesome, it has to be good, right? Or this one I love, old-fashioned with grain. And you can create as many variants as you want. Now, as soon as Ian says, I love them both, I will convert both of them to a TIFF or JPEG, whatever I need for the client. But it doesn't take up any room. Now, imagine this in any other software package. In Lightroom, you can do something that's a little bit similar, but I really like the way that Capture One handles it. Okay, so some questions.
So one of the questions was, can you reference the plugins that you were just using?
Yeah, the reference plugins. The plugins I absolutely love to use is DxO Film Pack, Alien Skin Exposure for the conversion of film looks, and Capture One. The other plugins I use are MacFun and Topaz. And Topaz is actually really nice in their clarity, which I adore. And they have something called Clean Tree, which is very cool for skin. If you don't want to shelve out all the bucks for image normal portraiture, Topaz Clean Tree actually does it very, very well for a fraction of the price. But image normal portraiture is just a little bit better.
Okay. Another question was, one of the biggest problems I have when tethering raw files to MacBook is that the cache quickly gets filled. The camera must then wait for the MacBook to finish processing files before firing to continue, and production stops. Any suggestions for getting around this?
Yeah. The problem is that if you're shooting a lot, the buffer will fill up. There's nothing you can do about that. Faster hard drive, USB 3, whatever, it will fill up. There's no walk around it. As soon as you start doing Wi-Fi, then you will see what happens. There's one solution, but I don't think you will like it. It's go to medium format. With medium format, I can shoot for an hour, and I can shoot 1.2 frames a second. So that's really, really not so fast. And it will never ever slow down. It will go 1.2 frames a second, 1.2 frames a second for an hour, or until the hard drive is full. But as soon as you start shooting DSLR, and you're shooting 3-4 frames a second, the buffer will end, and probably at around 10-20 frames, and you have to wait. Now, how long do you have to wait? If you start using Capture One, you will see that your waiting time is cut in half compared to Lightroom. If you don't have Capture One, Lightroom does it very, very well, but it's just a little bit slower.
Okay.
Now I see a question, what software do I need to set up a third session? Now a lot of people think you need a lot of software, you need a lot of cables, you need, and they stop. They go like, I don't feel like it anymore, I need so much. Guys and girls, listen to me. It's very, very simple to start your tethering session. You can do it now. So stand up, get a USB cable that was delivered with your camera, find that CD, you know, that is that little round thingy that's a little bit silvery that you can't play anymore. Put it in your computer, and if you can't put it in your computer, download the software or put it somewhere else in a computer. And there's software on there. With Canon, it's called DPP. On Nikon, I don't know what it's called, but probably something like Nikon Remote. With Sony, it's called Sony Remote. Every manufacturer.
Nikon is the Nikon camera control software.
Nikon camera control software,
does not come with your camera. It needs to be purchased either from Nikon, or you can get it from our website or other locations.
Okay, so if you run that software, it will actually ask you where do you want the files to go. So you make the connection. You can, of course, tether your camera and just shoot it from the software, or you can just shoot it and the images will come into a file location that you want it. So you don't need any software, you don't need Lightroom, you don't need anything. The only thing is you need a browser. You can use Finder for it or Explorer on PC as soon as if it supports RAW files. Now if you go one step further, Lightroom. Now Lightroom supports almost every camera. Now if it doesn't support your camera, there's nothing wrong. If it doesn't support your camera, just start up Lightroom like I'm doing now. And the main thing you do in Lightroom, and it's very, 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 very simple, is you make a hot folder. And a hot folder you create in your file, and you go into Tethered Capture, or sorry, if your camera is supported, you just do tethered capture. You start, you set your session name, your naming, and you press OK. Now, as soon as you see this, it says no. Oh, sorry, this is for the Sony. You see that there's no camera detected. Well, that's correct because there's no camera connected. This is straight into Lightroom. The other way is create a hot folder.
This would be if you're a Photoshop.
It's been a long time since I did it. Huh?
This, what Frank, you're explaining, if you're a Photoshop user and don't have a copy of Lightroom, you can set up a...
No, this is Lightroom. So I haven't done this in a long time, so I'm now looking for it. But it will take a little bit too much time. I'm sorry for this, guys. What you do is you auto import settings and you create that hot folder. There we go. And it's a watched folder, and you have to make sure that that folder is empty. And it has to be the same folder that you tell your software from your camera to shoot through. So let's say tethered. Just put here tethered. Tell the software from your camera also to shoot into tethered. Now, as soon as you press OK, it will watch that folder, and that's the hot folder. Now, as soon as it sees an image coming in that folder, it will copy it to another folder. And this is what I don't like about Lightroom, because that will take some time. And it will be very irregular, meaning if you shoot 10 frames and you shoot it very fast after each other, Lightroom will wait because it sees one image coming in and it will go like, okay, let's wait if there's another one. Oh, there's another one. Let's wait until there's another one. No, there's no other one. Let's import the two. Oh, there's another one coming. Let's wait. And that means that sometimes it will show it straight on. Sometimes it will wait for a little while. Capture One doesn't need a tether folder. So I was shooting with the Sony into Capture One 7. And a lot of people approach me going like, dude, how can you shoot tethered into Capture 7? Because there's no support for Sony. The only thing I did is, in the background, I always run Sony camera control software. The Sony camera control software, I just put in, shoot straight into the capture folder from Capture One. Capture One doesn't copy the files, it just sees a new file coming in and it goes, oh, new file, show it on screen. And a new file comes in, oh, no, new file, show it on screen. So that works very, very fast. And that's actually the point where I start using Lightroom for tethering, a little bit less than Capture One. A little bit less, and started using more Capture One. After that, I started doing raw developing tests, and I found out that DxO optics and Capture One actually beat Lightroom in raw developing. Now, why do I still use Lightroom? For the very simple reason, Lightroom is awesome if you use the library function. I can find something back that I've shot many, many years ago just by typing in keywords like Brian or Anna-Week or Frank or my mother or whatever. I can find it very fast. I have smart albums. I can now sync, and this is awesome. I can now sync with Lightroom Mobile, and I always have my portfolio with me. So I have this little smart album here, and it's called Portfolio. And this one is actually consistent of all the images I marked: celebs, glamour, hair, model, sports, street, and travel. And this is actually always up to date. So if I add something that, this is a great shot, I will give it a keyword called slideshow. Slideshow FD, you can actually see it here. It will put it in a smart album, and that smart album is directly synced with Lightroom Mobile. So when I'm on the road and I forget to sync my computer, which happened to me a lot in the past, I didn't have my newest images with me. Now, thanks to Lightroom Mobile, it's synced in the cloud, and on location, I just log in, and it downloads everything, and I have all the images with me for my portfolio. So that's why I use Lightroom, and Lightroom rocks in that raw conversion and everything else, tethered shooting, it's all Capture One over here. Any more questions?
Great. It looks like you answered most of the questions. Speed of the camera coming in. Typically, you mentioned that Lightroom is a little bit fast. Capture One is a little bit faster than Lightroom coming in. One question was, can you show the portraiture settings for skin smoothing?
Yep. Nope. Oh, by the way, a little bit of commercial. Tether Tools in the Netherlands is for sale at Camera Nu, Camera Tools, Photo Flits, and Studio FD. So I did my part for that. I'm just kidding. Those are really good partners because, as you know, and I don't know if you know, but Laura knows, Anna Week and I are actually the distributors for Tether Tools in the Netherlands because we really love their stuff. Okay, let me see where I left the image. There we go, Ian. So the smoothing, and I will only show you that very quickly. For normal skin smoothing, what I will do is image portraiture. This is a guy, so I don't use any skin smoothing on him, but I will normally go to 100%. I'll go straight up. And this is the standard setting on smoothing FS. This is for the skin separation, frequency separation, which I always do. Normally, if you don't do frequency separation, and I don't know why you shouldn't, because it's in Photoshop, it's free, and it works great, I would normally go into default, take the picker, and just select some areas on his face. I'll go like, press the space bar and see, okay, if this is nice, well, it's nice, and then we'll just go fine-tune it. And in the end, you will end up with some presets like smoothing, normal, medium, or high. Now, high doesn't look very nice, but it's okay. Now, if you want to do it with the frequency separation, now I want absolute control. I want to smooth out every unevenness in his skin. So what you actually do is you do all the way up. You do everything on everything full blast. And you go sharpness all the way down and your softness all the way up. And you create a profile and you store that. For example, frequency separation, smoothing. There you go. And now every time you start up, it will start doing this. And now what you see, he lost all his skin detail, right? It's terrible. The other thing you see is that he also lost all the unevenness in the color. It's now a very nice skin color. And because on the frequency separation, on the top layer, you have all this, all the detail, and on the bottom layer, you smooth it out, so you have the perfect solution. And for me, this is really the way to start doing skin. And I started doing this, I think, a few months ago. And at first I thought, you know what, it's 2 extra steps. And you saw me, I created a small action. I downloaded it actually from the internet. It's a very, very fast action. And you just run it, then you run portraiture from Imagenomic, and you have the perfect skin with all the details still there. So very, very powerful stuff. And it's free in Photoshop, so why not use it?
Great.
Any more questions?
2 more questions. One, have you tried printing while you're shooting in Lightroom at events where you want to move the images, edit quickly, and get them to print? And are there tips for doing so?
Yeah, take a lot of aspirin. And some Prozac. Because that is absolutely horrible. We did it once, and that was once. I can do it. The problem is you can't do it alone, because if you shoot, you have to retouch and you have to print. The printer is always slow. Now, if you know, there's a project called Hell Portrait, and every year we organize it for the Netherlands, or we try to organize it for the Netherlands. And last year we got, like, I believe 1,500 volunteers, so the Netherlands absolutely rocked in that aspect. And that's only the guys we know who did it, so who we helped. Now, with Hell Portraits, we actually shoot and we print at the same time, but I kid you not, we have 6 photographers shooting. All the photographers bring their card towards a desktop computer, and one girl of us only downloads cards the whole day. She downloads the cards, she flags the images. Okay, you want this image, you want this image, okay. She very, very quickly retouches, and she sends it straight to a printer. Before it's 1 o'clock, we're already half an hour late. As soon as it's 2 o'clock, we're already 1 hour behind. As soon as it's 3 o'clock, we tell people come back at 6 and you'll get your images. Because the printers aren't that fast, because you want top quality. And if you're shooting events, it often means you're shooting a lot of images. What I like to do is something called OIPO in the Netherlands. I always give people at events, if I do events, I give them my card. And as soon as I give you my card, you can go to my website, and it's actually called www.studiofd.nl. And this is our normal website for the people who are, how do you call it, private people. And we go to a Bestel system, order system. And this is all integrated in our website. And they will get a little card of us, and they will just order the prints from our website. The fun part is, as soon as I uploaded them from Lightroom into this folder, I can give them a password, or I can just open them up, and they can order the images, and OIPO prints and sends them to our clients. So as soon as I uploaded them, the only thing I wait for is to get an email, "You've got money." And that's the fun part, so I don't have to print on events. And I know a lot of people will buy more if they print on events, but somehow it's so much hassle, and if somebody doesn't like to print and you have to do it over, think about all the stress. Or take 2 or 3 friends of you and you just shoot, because the photographer needs to shoot. And he doesn't have to be like, "Oh, the printer doesn't work anymore. Frank, can you help me out?" "No, I'm shooting." "Yeah, but the printer doesn't work." And you will miss images. So I don't like to print on events unless I have a team with me that absolutely know how to solve problems. So that's why I said use a lot of aspirin. But it can be done, of course.
It can. Frank, if you don't mind, I'm going to jump over here to my screen and show a couple of options as well. A number of the questions have related to shooting tethered and getting additional ways of shooting tethered and understanding the process as well as the printing. We do have some tethering education resources that are available to everyone. Tether Tools does run a blog called tethertalk.com, and it has lots of different tools and education on software, applications, iPad and tablet tools. There are green screen options. There's event process workflows. There's a lot of great information. I encourage you to go check out tethertalk.com. And if the topic that you're looking for is not coming up in the top bar, put in what you're looking for into the search panel, or look at the popular tags and search for the items that you'd like questions answered on there. We also have a segment on our website called Plugging In. The Plugging In section has all kinds of great information on tethered photography basics, all the different softwares available, their price points, whether they come with your camera or not, how to make sure you have the correct cable and correct cable length connectors if you need extensions, lots of different options. There also were some questions in the chapter about in the question form about shooting with CamRanger, the wireless device that we talked about just before the session started. If you are interested in CamRanger, you can also check that out on the Plugging In section of Tether Tools. You can see there are 2 options for the FAQs and how the software works. Or feel free to give any of us a call to answer those questions. We are at our time limit and able to wrap up our session now. If you do have any questions whatsoever, you can email Frank at info@frankdoorhof.com or email customer service at tethertools.com. And if you are, as Frank mentioned, there's a bunch of stores in the Netherlands where he is located. If you are in another part of the country or world and would like to find the location to purchase your Tether Tools gear, you can go to tethertools.com and purchase online, or go to the store locator that shows all of the locations around the world where our gear is available. I want to thank Frank for joining us today. Thank you so much for
awesome.
Great education and lots of insight. You are a wealth of knowledge, and we always love hearing from you. So thank you to Frank, and thank you to everyone who joined us today. Again, any questions, email us at info@frankdoorhof.com or customer service at tethertools.com.
Oh, Lauren, can I say one more thing, please?
Of course.
If, as a lot of people know, I wrote a book called Mastering the Model Shoot. And on Facebook, we now have a group called Mastering the Model Shoot. It's a group, and if they subscribe to that group, I will let them in. It's free. And they can see some of the most amazing photography I ever saw coming around in a group. Everybody can post their images there. They get a critique. They often get critiqued by me. And it's just an awesome, awesome group. So, I see.
And how do people find that group, Frank?
Okay. So very simple. You go into your Safari, Chrome, or whatever your poison is, and you go to Mastering the Model Shoot. And it's on Facebook, and I'm not a particular fan of Facebook, but somehow the groups on Facebook, they run really well. So, and this is actually the address. So facebook.com groups Mastering the Model Shoot. And I kid you not, the images you see there are absolutely breathtaking. I look at it just for fun to see what they're doing. And it's a really nice group of people. So join Mastering the Model Shoot, guys.
Fantastic. Thank you, everyone. Have a great day. This webinar recording will be emailed out to everyone after the session. So if you'd like to go back and review any of the things you learned with Frank today, please feel free to do so. Again, thanks for joining us. Have a great day or a great evening.
Thank you, guys.